modern mathematics, the Macaulay education system actually removed us from our roots and made mathematics boring to do, difficult to understand. We are living in the digital technology age of digital technology. So the foundation of digital technology is binary number system.
The Britishers, they did massive education surveys. Madras Presidency, Bengal Presidency, Bombay Presidency, Punjab, the Awadh region and all. They all found that every village had a school and they learned multiple disciplines right from the younger age. And in that, science was one important thing. They all read primary sources. Now, even many of the practitioners of Ayurveda, they may not be in a position to explain what the Sushruta Samhita says. But in those days, students were equipped enough to understand the basics of health, sciences, etc. So coming to the modern phase, we see that the injustice that has been done to the traditional knowledge in those days was to remove away the knowledge aspect of the Indian society so that they could put their hands on our society and they could tilt it according to their wills and whims. And introduce Western education is to introduce colonization, introduce imperialism, and then make a crown out of India.
So, Vanakkam everyone. I extend my gratitude and greetings from Tamil Nadu, the land of Bhakti. I am so privileged to be here. Thanks for the organizers for giving me the opportunity. Science in Bharat is a very, very interesting topic because as a Sanatani living in Tamil Nadu, I can see the narrative of the Dravidians, which is so prevalent in the society now, in Tamil society now, that they are cooking up a story before the Dravidians came into existence. Like they came to power, the Bharatiyas were uncivilized. Bharatiyas had nothing. Bharat had nothing. We were a bunch of uncivilized people. We came, especially the great man, E.V. Ramasamy Nayakar, whom people call him as Periyar. Before his arrival, people were so barbaric in nature, we had nothing, we had no science in Bharat. So to debunk this narrative, it takes a lot of efforts, research, and which is the need of the hour, according to me. I have seen what this narrative has made Tamil Nadu, what it has costed Tamil Nadu, so that we are still struggling to defeat the Dravidian cancer in Tamil Nadu for more than a century now. Still now they are dominating with this narrative. So we have two subject matter experts here who have extensively researched in the area of science in Bharat. So I would like to start this session with Savarish ji. So he has written a book, Brief History of Science in India. So if we say, let's say, science existed in Bharat for a very long period of time. Without science, we can't even imagine how Bharat would have existed. Can we just date this science? Is there any specific date from which you can start this science in Bharat narrative?
Thank you, Kiran. And thank you for the entire team for having invited here. We say that history is immemorial. There is not a specific time when it has been precisely dated. But we can definitely say that today we have a recorded history of like 7,000 years. That is starting from like 3000 BC onwards, we have recorded history. That is during the early Harappan civilization period. Since then, we have the history. And when we say history of science, it doesn't mean that it started all of a sudden overnight. It's as per the demand of the society. One good example which I can say is that since Indian subcontinent, it's a agricultural-based civilization, it was important for the farmers or for even the traders to get an understanding or to precisely predict the arrival of the monsoon. And to predict the arrival of monsoon, it was important to read the constellation of stars, which month, which way. Even for the traders who used to go, it was important for them to understand the monsoon, the predictions. And to have a good understanding of monsoon, you definitely need an idea of distance, time, travel. So that is how mathematics also evolved. And gradually the concept of Panchama, Bhut, Tridosh, they all arised. And today we can say that the Vedic sacrifices, which were done to please the gods, it also has the basics of mathematics. You see the hotra, the yagya kund which we create. It's a very precise algebraic mathematics. So we can definitely say that it's like 6,000 years of recorded history we have. In fact, literary sources, archaeological evidences. It's a wide range of evidences which we have to say that it was a continuous attempt for scientific excellence. There was never a break. That is why we say that India's scientific heritage is rich. Heritage is even greater than tradition. So ours is a scientific tradition, in fact, which has the extension of the scientific achievements. It's very magnificent.
So moving on to Chandrahas ji, you have did a extensive research on mathematics, especially that is your forte. So I would like to ask you, see kids nowadays, I can see a lot of kids complaining that I hate mathematics. Mathematics is so difficult. Because do you think the system is flawed now? And I would like to ask you another question. How was the system in the ancient mathematics, how it was taught? And we say like Bodhayana Sutra was the base of Pythagoras theorem. And can you elaborate more on the scientific data and with more evidence?
So, your first part of your question was, is modern mathematics, like kids suffer from mathophobia, they find it difficult, they find it impractical. So the system is flawed. Basically, like if we look at the ancient Indian mathematicians and the ancient Indian textbooks, the ancient Indian mathematicians made mathematics fun to do, interesting to solve problems, and easy to understand. And it was, all your examples were practical. They were connected to your day-to-day activities. They were connected to your life. So if you look at the textbook that was used in every Gram Gurukul in undivided India for almost last 700 years, like from the 13th century till the time of the arrival of the Britishers or the Macaulay system of education, the textbook was Leelavati. And Leelavati was written by or composed by Bhaskaracharya in the 12th century. And to be precise, he has also dated that book. It was composed in the year 1150 AD or the 1150 of the Common Era. So for almost 600 years, 700 years, Leelavati was the de facto textbook in all the Gram Gurukuls and all the universities of India. So I always used to say jokingly that why am I good at mathematics? Because I learned mathematics from my grandmother. And my grandmother's name was Leelavati.
Okay.
And Bhaskaracharya wrote the book Leelavati to teach mathematics to his daughter Leelavati. So he named the book after his daughter to teach her mathematics. So this Leelavati, so Bhaskaracharya was not only an astronomer, mathematician, he was also a poet. The entire book is in verse. It is in poetic meters. And when they were celebrating 900th anniversary of Bhaskaracharya,
Okay.
a group had performed a ballet based on Leelavati. And Leelavati examples like there is a group of monkeys, 1/5 went here, 2/3 went there. So, okay. So it is like, it makes it interesting for the students. It makes it practical for traders and merchants. And it is really fun to do.
Okay.
So that is our heritage, scientific heritage, educational heritage. So that is the stark contradiction. The modern mathematics, the Macaulay education system actually removed us from our roots and made mathematics boring to do, difficult to understand.
If you can give more evidence, like we had this, and now the modern mathematics, we say it's a cheap copy of what we had earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we can build more evidence, give more evidence now, it would be interesting for the audience because we can be the weapon suppliers for them. From this research, they can take this research up and they can counter the narrative which is prevalent in the society.
Yeah, so you want an example from Leelavati. So there are examples in Ganit Sar Sangraha.
Okay.
So Bhaskaracharya was inspired by two earlier texts. One was Mahaviracharya's. It is dated 850 AD, 850 of the Common Era, year 850 of the Common Era. And he was also, I think so, the other book is Trisatik. I don't exactly remember the name. He was inspired by these two books. And they also made mathematics fun to do. So there are examples like there's a swarm of bee. 1/4 went to the Malti flower, 1/3 went to the champa, and one bee was like buzzing around a lotus. So how many bees were there? So such kind of interesting examples are there. Other example is of the Chaturvimshati Keshavanam.
Okay.
That Narayan, Lord Narayan, Bhagwan Narayan has 4 arms and he holds 4 ayodh.
Okay.
So Shankha, Padma, Gada and Chakra. So how many ways can they be arranged?
4, 4, 24.
Yeah, that is 24. 4 factorial, that is 24. So you can arrange all the 4 ayodh in 24 ways. So during Sandhya Vandanam, you chant 24 names of Vishnu. What we call Chaturvimshati Keshavanam.
Okay.
So in Leelavati, Bhaskaracharya has actually formed a problem around this.
Okay.
In how many forms of Narayan Murti you can have. So for every unique arrangement, you have a unique name.
Okay.
Then I will give you one more interesting example. Or rather, let me quote from Ganit Sar Sangraha, Mahaviracharya's Ganit Sar Sangraha. He says that mathematics can be applied to economics, mathematics can be applied to drama, it can be applied to trade, commerce, cooking, architecture, and romance. And Mahaviracharya was a Digambar Jain monk, and he is talking about love and romance. So there are examples in Ganit Sar Sangraha and Leelavati that a man gives gemstones to his beloved, a fiancée. And she makes a headband, armlets, and she makes different jewelry. So how many gemstones did the lover give his fiancée?
When did you think Bharatiyas went off the path from the ancient mathematics, ancient science, and adopted?
It was during the Macaulay, Britishers.
You were saying me, like you have mentioned in your book, that we were so well versed in rocket science back then. So could you please elaborate on that? How well versed we were in rocket science?
Yeah. So it was when I was reading Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam sir's book, his first book, Wings of Fire. In his very first couple of pages, he tells about how the sciences of rocket, it travels from Indian subcontinent to the Europe. I then started researching on that particular thing. Then I got a very good, reliable history book, which was based on Vijayanagara Empire. So at that time, when we saw, those were the times when the Mughals just started to evolve their empire here. So at that time, we see that the Vijayanagara Empire used rockets. And later on, we have evidences to show that the Marathas used rockets on Britishers. And there is a treatise also, which is dated back to 1200 AD. Even the evidences are there even before, but the most recent evidence in the medieval India we see is, so the rockets, the terminologies used for rockets were like Bana, Agneya, Astra, and these are the terms. And later on we see that rockets were better improved during Maratha Empire, and it was also used during the Anglo-Mysore War. So during the Battle of Seringapatam, the Britishers found that these rockets were very much effective for the Indian forces. And what this rocket did was, it just came randomly, abruptly from all the directions, and it caused havoc in the battalions. Those days where elephants and horses were used, so it totally bifurcated the forces. And so it was at that time that William Congreve, he took this rocket to the British and showed it to the army officer, army ministry there. And later on, we have evidence to show that these rockets were used at the Battle of Waterloo against Napoleon. And we all know what happened to Napoleon. And gradually, they evolved the rocket systems, which we know as it is today. So we have evidence to show that the transfer of knowledge from India is also true for rocket science also.
Actually, I have a question for both of you. While doing research, what was the biggest challenge faced by you? Was it the lack of material or something else?
The first and foremost thing is that to have the understanding or the conviction that what we are reading these days itself is a biased version.
Okay.
That was the first thing. It took a lot of time to have an understanding that what we are reading through our textbooks, through other materials, is very much biased and is on behalf of the Western narration. So once you get to know that this itself is a reality, then that is the first step in stepping towards rewriting the history. For me, that was the biggest thing, and I'm grateful that it happened in my alumni institution, JNU.
Okay.
So there, on the first day itself, the so-called glorious history of Western science was pumped in us. Then the moment we raise questions, then they get upset that is when we know that, okay, so here also it is there. But the libraries are libraries. Libraries show all the versions of the reality. So when we started researching, we came to know that no, there is a lot of science still waiting to be unearthed.
Okay.
And in JNU, a full cupboard or a full row of books on ancient Indian history was untouched for the last at least 30, 40 years. I was the first one to borrow that book when I saw the catalog. So I started researching, and no, then there was no way back.
Okay. So, and you?
Yeah, so regarding the challenges in research, of course, my search for kind of Indian sciences or Indian mathematics, both, and Indian technology, began while in teenage years. So at that time, like I'm talking about, say, mid 80s and late 80s, it was the lack of access to the material.
Okay.
And once I got access to the material, the other challenge was like improper translations. Like a Sanskrit expert, he is translating a mathematical text. So the translation is not up to the mark because they are just literally translating and they don't understand the mathematics part, or they find it difficult. So they are just translating, and when you read that,
overcome that?
so when you are reading those translations, you just don't understand what they are. It doesn't make any sense or logic. It's horrendous sometimes, the translations. Then, of course, I gained knowledge of Sanskrit, and I also got access to better text or better translations, and also I got access to a community of researchers in the subject. So, of course, I was able to study them, kind of correct the mistakes in translations, or kind of bring more clarity to the subject.
Okay. I saw one of your videos where you talk about Pingala. So actually it was so fascinating and interesting for me to watch. I think it will be more interesting for the audience to listen it again from you.
Yeah.
So could you please?
So now let me make Indians aware about their own glorious heritage, mathematical and scientific heritage. So we are living in the digital technology age of digital technology. So the foundation of digital technology is binary number system. Until recent years, almost all of them used to credit Leibniz as the creator of binary number system. So Leibniz was contemporary of Newton, and that was in the 17th century. But it was Pingalacharya who gave us binary number system in the 3rd century BC. That is 3rd century BCE, before the Common Era. And Pingalacharya had composed the Granth, Chanda Sastra. And Chanda Sastra means Chand, it is about Chand. It is one of the 6 Vedang. So Chanda Sastra is a book on prosody, poetic meters, the subject or study of poetic meters. So while categorizing and classifying poetic meters, Pingalacharya kind of enumerated all the possible meters. So while doing that, he developed the binary number system. Not only that, so I'll continue with the Pingal's Chanda Sastra. So Pingalacharya also gave us the algorithms for converting decimal to binary and binary to decimal. He also gave us algorithms for combinatorial sequence generation. So we have our telephone directories, we have our computer databases, which are like arranged in a chronological order or sorted. So he gave us also the Meru Prastar. What is popularly called Pascal's triangle is actually predated by Pingal's Meru Prastar by 1800 years. So a prosodist did give us amazing mathematical heritage, and this was predated around by 1800 years before Pascal. So we were much mathematically advanced than the Europeans.
Okay. Also, Sabarish ji has done extensive research on architecture in ancient India, also surgery in ancient India. Surgery means now common people can name Sushruta, the father of surgery. And we have Sushruta statue in many hospitals, even in Bharat and abroad. So, apart from Sushruta, what else was the contribution of Bharat in the field of surgery?
So it's basically the Sushruta Samhita which gives us a lot of information about the surgical practices that were prevalent in India those days. If we see the case studies of those times, it seems very interesting. And those were the times when it was warfare everywhere. Not even just in the Indian subcontinent, wherever the European colonies, wherever the Europeans went to set up the colonies, they all had warfares. It was very common in those days for people get severely injured, किसी का नाक कट गया, किसी का कान निकल गया, grave injuries. So in those times, we find that in India, we had a reliable or in fact very successful method to perform surgery. What we call today rhinoplasty, it has its origins in India. And it's a recorded history, not dating back much to medieval India, in fact modern India, during the late 1700s, 1790s in fact. So those were the times when, when the East India Company started setting its fold. And during the Anglo-Mysore War, one British soldier was caught as prisoner of war by Tipu's army. And he was his nose was chopped off and he was let off. He was just let off. For 1 year, he roamed without a nose. And he was a Parsi soldier. His name was Kovasji. And later on, after a year, in 1794, near modern Pune, one potter, I'm telling potter, they call it Kumar in here. So one potter, he gave Kovasji an artificial nose by taking a flap of skin from the forehead, and he performed the plastic surgery. He performed the surgery, and this was documented by 2 British medical officers, and it was published in the Madras Gazette in the year 1794, the same year. And in 1795, this was republished in the Gentleman magazine in London. That's the first time the Europe or the West came to know about a successful procedure to give a nose job. Okay. Technically, it's a nose job. These days, they call it nose job. Okay. So, and there, the Carpew, Joseph Constantine Carpew, he's considered as the father of rhinoplasty. He took it forward. In those days, even in the European colonies, wherever it was, there also they needed this procedure because कई लोगों का नाक कट रही थी, कई लोगों का cheeks were gone. So this was a very reliable procedure. Else also there were procedure, but they had their own complications. Okay. कभी fungus लग जाती थी, कभी severity होती थी, and they had to. It also led to death also several cases. Yeah. So Joseph Constantine, he says that the Indic method of performing surgery for giving a rhinoplasty is very successful, and later on from the
they adopted the Indic method.
Indic method. Okay. Rhinoplasty is technically the Indian method, and there are proper evidences to show. In fact, there is a full page poster to show how Kovasji looked after the rhinoplasty. It's a diagram, but very very neatly drawn diagram.
Okay.
So this is, and apart from this, Sushruta Samhita, Charak Samhita, and several other treatises, it tells us which disease needs to be treated and how, and what needs to be done to prevent the diseases.
Okay.
In Ayurveda, if we see, we have this understanding of how the external Prakriti is closely linked to the internal Prakriti. That is the Panchamahabhutas, how the permutation and combination of Panchamahabhuta tends to form the Tridoshas, that is Vat, Pitta, Kapha. And we have our own physiological, psychological understanding based on different Prakritis. And we have a prescribed diet plan as to which food needs to be eaten when and when not. That is the reason why in places of cold, it's advised not to eat rice and curd in the night.
Okay.
That is the reason. Because in those days, it's important to prevent certain diseases and abnormalities rather than getting prepared for treating. So this is one basic understanding which in Ayurveda we follow. And also in all the Ayush systems, Ayurveda, homeopathy, Unani, Siddha, naturopathy, they all have this understanding that the external Prakriti is what determines our Prakriti.
Okay.
That is the health.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to architecture, how unique is the Bharatiya architecture and what's the base of the Bharatiya architecture and how is it different from other architectures? How can we differentiate?
Firstly, I will answer the last question. How different it is? It is definitely sustainable.
Okay.
It's definitely eco-friendly. That is one underline which I want to make it now. And after the excavations at the Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, we found that how complex cities were constructed in those days, like from now, like 5,500 years before, we had the mature Harappan phase, which means that we had the earlier Harappan phase also, which culminated in the later Harappan stage. And then on, we have treatises like Arthashastra, we have treatises like Kama Sutra talking on architecture also. Kama Sutra is one such treatise which talks on everything that is important for a family life, for a family man, everything. Not just the part which is being pumped out of proportion. So when you talk about architecture, one case, because it's good to read case studies and it's also good to listen to case studies.
Yeah.
So I want
Please.
to give one case study which is about the Taj Mahal.
Okay.
It may seem controversial, but facts are facts. Let it be put it bare. So when the wife of Shah Jahan died, she died in Burhanpur. She died in Madhya Pradesh, not in Agra. She was buried there, and after 1 year, she was taken away from this thing, and Shah Jahan felt that she needs to be given a royal burial somewhere at the capital. That is when he came to know about. He already knew about, but he thought that he needs to be given a royal burial, and so he asked Raja Jai Singh of Jaipur कि आपका एक महल यहाँ पर दिख रही है, वो हमें लेना चाहते हैं, कि हमें चाहिए वो महल. And if we see back into history, that particular Mahal of Raja Jai Singh was given to him by his grandfather, Raja Man Singh. Okay. So that was when it was given to Raja Jai Singh. It was a temple architecture. But Raja Jai Singh, he converted into a palace kind of. Though the temple existed still in a part of the palace, he could only create the external aspect of that building. Though the basic architecture of that particular building was temple architecture only. And once Shah Jahan acquired it, there is proper evidence to show from Badshah-nama, wherein he writes the letter to Raja Jai Singh saying that I'm taking this. He takes it, he puts money, he builds in the way different that it looks today. He brought minars, dome aa gaya, and then the burial was given there.
Okay.
There are many evidence still that remains to let know what exactly it is still. But we have evidence from the medieval history to show that it was once a temple, then it became a palace, then it became mausoleum.
Okay. Thanks for dropping a controversial statement here.
It's not controversy. Those who want to make a controversy out of it, let them. But facts are facts. I have evidence to show.
Definitely. Okay. I want to ask you, Chandrahas ji, where do we lack to make people understand the significance of science in Bharat? Like, where are we lacking? What do we know? What do we, as a society, as Bharatiyas, as researchers, what more should we do? Where are we lacking?
In what?
In making people understand that we were civilized enough. Bharat had more science. Like, Bharat was scientific enough way before Westerners could ever imagine of.
Fine. So I'll add to something that Shabarish ji had said about Sushrut. The Sushrut was around 3,200 years ago. So he had written Sushrut Samhita, and he is credited with inventing more than 100 surgical instruments. And some surgical instrument with such precise things, such a precision. Another thing, he had also used to also regularly do cataract, successfully cataract. He also used to, there are like mentions that he had also used to conduct neural surgery, brain surgery. And Charak Samveta. The Charak was contemporary of Sushrut around the same time. He had written the Charak Samveta. 2 chapters of Charak Samveta are the origin of combinatorics or combinations and permutations. So you have the 3 dosh. So when a physician, and there are 6 ras, Kattu means sour, salty, bitter, astringent, pungent, hot.
Tridoshes, Kapha, Pitta,
So-
Vata.
And you have the 3 dosh. The as per your dosh, the physician will prescribe the combination or mixture of those ras. So a medicine for me, amrit for me, will be a poison for him. And a poison for him will be amrit for me. So they used to see the constitution of the patient and prescribe the mixture of ras.
No constant medicine for everybody.
No,
Random.
so it is has see. So see, a drug will work on you, but that drug will be I will be allergic to that drug, and it can have drastic consequences on me. So many a times on your ID card, photo ID card, it is mentioned that you are allergic to so and so drug. Or the doctors, before administering a medicine, will ask you, are you allergic to this drug? So ancient India knew about this, whereas toxicology as a subject is just 150-year-old or 200 years old. What we call the allopathic medicine.
Okay.
And see, in the 16th century, 17th century Europe, you had the Black Death, yellow fever, plague. So almost a 1/3 or almost 40% of European population used to get wiped off.
Wiped off.
Whereas in India, it was not the case. Why? Because Brahmin or the Vaid, they used to go before the monsoon. They used to visit each and every gram, and they used to administer vaccines or lasikaran to all the public, so that during the monsoon period, there is no spread of diseases.
I think this is recorded by Dharampal. Right?
Yes,
In
yes,
his-
yes. Another instance I will give you, which is the earliest synthetic or artificial port.
Okay.
It is Lothal in Gujarat. This is 6,500-year-old artificial port with locks and gate. You have dry docks to build and repair vessels.
Okay. So now I can see a narrative that, okay, I will admit that we were so advanced in science and in ancient Bharat, but now we have modern science. So when we have modern science, why waste time in researching about the ancient Bharat, sort of?
See, there is no Nobel Prize in mathematics. Most of the mathematicians have got Nobel Prize in economics. But equivalent, you have the Fields Medal. And we should be proud that an Indian professor in Princeton, Professor Manjul Bhargav, got this Fields Medal. And he is, many times he visits India. So we were asked in an interview that what give you inspiration on an idea for such an amazing work that you got you the Fields Medal. So he said that his grandfather was a Sanskrit Pandit. And he had learnt Indian mathematics from his grandfather, and that Indian mathematics gave him the idea, the inspiration for his phenomenal work in mathematics to fetch him the Fields Medal. And another thing, see, if you learn from the horse's mouth, or we say the primary source, or the creditable sources, you will always get a much better idea, a more comprehensive idea of the concept.
Yeah, I heard that like majority of the manuscripts were destroyed, which was the major manuscript which we lost in terms of science in ancient Bharat, which would have been a treasure by now.
Surya Siddhant.
Surya Siddhanta.
It is still there, but many manuscripts, like the Bakshali manuscript, which is now in the Oxford Library. So it is in like, it's not a complete manual or a complete text. Some pages are lost, some pages are torn. But maybe with the blessings of the God, like see in India, many ancient Indian scriptures and texts are lying in the mutt of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, like lakhs of text, which are yet to be opened, studied, and translated.
Okay.
Now we have
Do you
the.
think there is a scope for this?
Huh?
Do you think there is a scope for this?
Yes,
There is a
yes.
scope. Do you think it's possible with the prevailing society given the situation?
Yeah,
now?
in the recent budget,
Okay.
just recent budget, 5 days ago, Modi ji, Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, he just created a fund for like 1 crore scriptures.
Yeah.
So it's a huge wealth. Another thing is that, okay, Nalanda had a huge library, the texts were burnt, but our scholars, we have the Brahmanical tradition, which is vilified purposefully, so that we forget our ancient knowledge and wisdom. But still the tradition is there. Our scriptures, they had saved it. So it is decentralized. We have yet to search for it, and we need people with domain knowledge. We need people with knowledge of Sanskrit, and then to study and translate it, to make it, propagate it to the common man.
You said that, you pointed out a question that, no, we already have modern science. The modernity has arrived. Why go back to tradition?
Yeah.
Right? So science is an aspect of society, and the very upliftment of dharma which we are all working on, science also forms an important aspect of it. And we should understand that when the Britishers, they came here, they first understood that the scientific tradition of Bharat itself is the root cause of why they're not able to put their hands on, put their legs on the Indian soil in the proper way they wanted to. That is when they try to understand the, what the Indians read in the Gurukulas, Pathshalas, Ashrams, Mats and all. That is how, as described by Dharampal ji in the Beautiful Tree, the Britishers, they did massive education surveys.
Okay.
Madras presidency, Bengal presidency, Bombay presidency, Punjab, the Awadh region and all. They all found that every village had a school, and they learnt multiple disciplines right from the younger age. And in that, science was one important thing. They all read primary sources. Now, even many of the practitioners of Ayurveda, they may not be in a position to explain what the Sushruta Samhita says. But in those days, students were equipped enough to understand the basics of health sciences, etc. So coming to the modern phase, we see that the injustice that has been done to the traditional knowledge in those days was to remove away the knowledge aspect of the Indian society, so that they could put their hands on our society and they could tilt it according to their wills and whims, and introduce Western education, is to introduce colonization, introduce imperialism, and then make a crown out of India. So if we are trying to revive our culture, then it's the first aspect is to understand how scientific we were. The main reason why I'm telling this, because when we keep it scientifically, even the most notorious of the communists, even the most notorious of the Marxists will convince himself.
Okay.
Because that is how they have been groomed. And in modern science, we have one pattern of empirical research. But in Indian philosophy of science, we have so many methods of empiricism, we have so many methods of research to conduct it, which is not accepted by modern science. They say that is for the reason they say the pseudoscience. It's not pseudoscience, it's time-proven knowledge.
Yeah, but in the name of science, nowadays, people are saying pseudoscience is on its rise. Some pseudosciences here and there. Do we need to address that?
See, when we don't understand the philosophical aspect
How
of...
do you draw the line between science and pseudoscience?
Every aspect of our religion has a scientific aspect. When you don't understand the scientific aspect of what it is, and we're not able to connect the aspect of what it is in the background, then people are not able to explain why. People are not able to explain why we have a tulsi poda in front of a house. Tulsi is a very good air purifier. The air that comes into the house, it purifies that. एक लगाने से नहीं होगा, बहुत लगाना पड़ेगा. एक लगाने से नहीं होगा. So that is one thing. And second thing, another example which I can give is turmeric, about neem. If I can tell you, like 20 years ago, a patent was given to turmeric, you know?
Yeah.
The compound curcumin was extracted from turmeric and a patent was given. And then CSIR had to file a petition at the US Patent Office telling that this particular thing which we are given a patent is a prior art. It existed in Indian for thousands of years. We have been practicing it as our integral health system, and we have treatises to show this. And they presented like over 30 treatises, Sushruta Samhita, Charak Samhita, etc. Then it was cancelled. If ours is pseudoscience, why take patent?
Yeah.
Same happened with neem also. It's still continuing.
Okay.
So now Elon Musk has made Tesla famous, Nikola Tesla. So Nikola Tesla was inspired by Swami Vivekananda. A lot of quantum physicists were inspired by our Swami Vivekananda. So quantum physicist, which is based on Schrodinger's wave equation, or which is also known as the quantum mechanics. So it is inspired by our Ved or the Vedanta. And Fridtjof Capra had written a pioneering book, Tao of Physics, which draws parallels from our ancient Indian philosophy, wisdom, and modern physics. So, and in one of my lectures, I had drawn the parallels between 3D holographic projection using lasers and the Pind Brahmand from the Sankhya Darshan Shastra, Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmand. So, and of course, the fractal or the holonomic universe that is being proposed. So, we can, I'm not going to elaborate on that, otherwise, I will need an hour's time to do that. But yeah, audience and people can access my video, they can access my article and paper. And my future, my immediate near future plans are to actually focus more on writing about Upanishad, Vedanta, and modern physics.
Okay.
The parallels. And one more thing I would like to add from Vedang Jyotish, which is at least 3200-year-old scripture. And it has also been made popular among historians of mathematics and mathematicians, like the crest of the peacock, like the gem on the hood of the snake. So is mathematics at the head of all sciences or all knowledge.
Okay.
So you have the 6 Vedang, you have the Vedant. So mathematics is the head, it means it is the queen of all sciences. And this wisdom was prevalent at least 3200 years ago. So mathematics was not like hodgepodge. It was a comprehensive, structured, methodical discipline or a science, even before 3200 years ago.
Okay. So I would like to conclude with 2 questions combined. Like, if any youngster wants to take up this research of doing research in science in ancient Bharat, what would be your piece of advice? Both of you can answer. And what is a way forward with respect to this field? Like more research, like more truth, more light on the hidden past, debunking more the fake narratives. What is the way forward?
So the first and foremost thing is, when it comes to modern research, we follow one peculiar type of empirical research, which is evidence-based research. There is no scope for perception as a methodology in research, because every human being, they think in a different way, and the knowledge that comes out of it, you can like call it as philosophy, but that is the root cause. That is the root of all knowledge systems. And in India, we have the scope because we had no restrictions. Else, in the Western world or in the Middle East, there was always a restriction for the generation of knowledge. They had a particular way of thinking, and they had to think in that way only. Else, the consequences are known through the examples of Galileo, etc. They could not go away from the church. But in India, the knowledge has been generated in such a way that it's very dynamic. And it is also true that all the knowledge systems have the root to the Vedas, to the Dharma, and the empirical research system. So one thing I would like to advise to the current generation is that they should have an idea of all the aspects of science and technology and all. But at the same time, in the Indian perspective of science, things are interlinked. Like we both spoke about Panchamahabhut. Panchamahabhut is true for Ayurveda also. Panchamahabhut is true for physics also. Panchamahabhut is true for chemistry also, because it's all about the atoms, it's all about the elements, the compounds and all. So it's interlinked. So the basis is the nature. The basis is the nature, wherein we know that the Panchamahabhut, it has various interpretations in various subjects. So to have a basic understanding of that through the primary sources. And when I say primary sources, we need to read those sources in the languages that they were written in. Sanskrit, Pali, Prakrit, Tamil. So that is important. Learning those languages is also important, and interpreting it in the right way is important. Because English cannot, frankly saying, many words more need to be non-translables, exactly. Many more words need to be developed separately to even describe the word dharma, karma also.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things in science also which cannot be described in English. But after reading the commentary and all, we have an assumption as to what it could be, but still it's difficult to. So learning in the Indic languages is important.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of put it in brief, 3-4 points. First is learn Sanskrit, in which all our knowledge is stored. And say if I want to learn about Indian sciences, then first thing is to learn the language in which it is all written and recorded. Another is if I want to do research in Indian mathematics or Indian astronomy, to study the subject.
Okay.
To study the subject, like Indian astronomy or Indian mathematics, then I have to study the subject, the domain, get the domain knowledge, get the knowledge of Sanskrit, and then start reading the Indian scriptures or the Indian text, ancient Indian text. That is the route.
Okay.
Plain and simple, that is the basic. And then you can maybe do master's course or PhD courses in many our technical and science universities, which have experts who can guide you, who can support you and motivate you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before
Thank you.
concluding, thank you so much. I would like to urge each and every youngster in Bharat to take up this research, like science in ancient Bharat. It will be so interesting, full of numbers, facts, figures, so interesting field of research. And this is the need of the hour, because I know what it takes, like what it costs, because of the false narrative that Indians were uncivilized, Indians didn't have science in ancient Bharat. We have witnessed it in Tamil Nadu, like 100 years, the same narrative is going on, and they have been building on this narrative, and they have been successful in this. So I would like to urge each and every youngster to take up the research, and the future is ours. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jai Shri Ram.